Get a few magic items out. First thing I want to talk about is the base for making the base for the little birdhouse. And all you do is you just drill a piece in the bottom of the 3/4 thick piece of wood, probably 3 by 3.5 by 3.5 or 4 by 4, probably 3/4 thick, and stick it on your handy chuck and turn it off there. Punch a little hole in it, about 1/8 of an inch diameter, and I always use these brazing rods. Get them for less than $2 for a three-footer, I believe it is. And I want to talk for just a minute about how I make this thing shape. You snip it off with a good set of wire cutters, because it's a little hard to do, to about 9-10 inches. And I got to reach in here to get my little bolt. I put this in a vise, and as you can see, I've sawn a little slot in it. So what I do is put it in the vise and just shape it by hand. It's about 1.5 turns. Now what I've done in the past, I've tried forms and everything and putting it on the table, making sure it's perfect. I found out that this is the easiest way for me, and it makes a nice tight radius. We'll get started with the demonstration now. After that introduction, what I'm going to do right now is to turn the base of it, and I'm using just a regular chuck with the number 2 jaws. It's spigot jaws, and as I said before, I'm going to try to focus on some of the things that I've learned. First of all, you want to finish up with enough wall thickness that the pressure of this chuck doesn't cause it to explode. And I found that this won't go any less than 1 inch. So 1 inch is what you want to drill this with a Forstner bit in your 1.5 by 1.5, probably 2 inches long, something like that. Stick it on there. Clamp it down, or expand on it actually. Now, the whole idea is to get a 1/8 of an inch lip around it. So the matching piece would be drilled 1.25 inches. So that's going to be the top. You can use a gouge like this, or you can use a skew chisel. Either one works. But what I've found, because I'm going to be turning board grain on the top here, is I brought my bowl gouge. So I decided that's going to be the simplest thing, and we will use it for all operations other than the pouring tool. something I neglected to mention here. Starting out was the boring. Now there are specific dimensions that you can bore this from the top lip, but I usually use a 3/8 Forstner and plug it in there about midway, well, about a third of the way down, and then add another 1/4 inch plus for the piece for the perch that will go in there. I'll describe it later. Now what I want to do at this point is to start with a coarse piece of sandpaper. 180 is sufficient. Just knock it down pretty good. I use the paper that I get from the local parts store because it's serrated and it doesn't load up as badly. $180, $400, and $600. $600 is pretty critical to take this up to get the mylins finished to work properly. And I'm going to put some of that on here pretty quick and show you the finish that I can bring it up to. Now this next step here, some of you might gasp a little bit, but really I've done it before and I hope that I do it again right. But we're going to try. What we have here is we're going to put that lip on the edge here that's going to insert into the 1.25 inch hole we put in the top. This is critical stage, and I said I'm going to tell you a few things I've learned by experience. We're going to take the dimensions here with the inside caliper of this piece we're going to turn into the top. We have already pre-drilled it with an 1.25 inch Forstner bit. Now what we want to do is to make sure that the outside calipers touch that very accurately. And you have to kind of develop a feel for it so that you don't get it too small or too large. And I have found another thing is oftentimes just consistently using this thing, if you don't double check from time to time, vibration will change this dimension. So you need to do that frequently. That's a little bit loose, so probably won't work the first time. Now what I said is you're going to probably gasp when I do this, but I'm going to stop just short of going into my chuck. And the way I do it is two ways, either by sight or by feeling it. When it does that, it didn't touch the metal yet, but it's real close. The whole secret to using this stuff is to let it dry before you start buffing it. Always kind of let it dry a little bit so that when I turn it on, it doesn't sling finish all over the place.
She doesn't mind, it's okay, but.
Such a kind guy. So thoughtful, cares.
See what happens when you don't know my underwriting?
This just accelerates the drying a little bit.
Have you used the tailstock at all in any of the process?
No. That's another thing. I said in the initial introduction that it's really a good resource here in the club to use other people's expertise. And I had found an article on the internet, actually, well, I don't have it with me, on how to make the birdhouses with the kind of the little hat on them. And it was good, but it said to use a cone-shaped tailstock center and put it in and so on and so on. And I fought this thing, and you can see this hasn't taken me a whole lot of time to be done with it. And anyway, the other day at Paul, he was telling me, always use a cup. That way it doesn't act like a splitting wedge and cause your end to separate. So that was good information. Now, let me correct something that I did wrong here. Caught myself in an error. This is what I meant to do a while ago. That particular step that I just did was for the top. Yeah, we're done. Here, if we're lucky, everything's going to fit. And always check it, because I try to leave myself a little bit more room before I put that last step in there in case I have to do it over again like I just did. So oh well. That's the benefit of doing it like I did. And pretty close fit, right? Drop of glue and it's permanent. Now let's do the top for it. It goes pretty quick as well. After I blew out about 6 or 7 of those today, I decided to go. I was using the same material as I was using for the bottom part of the birdhouse, but I had it set with grain oriented like a spindle. And what happened was I had them too small here. You know, I just made it too small. And every time I'd get close to being done, it would blow out on me and end up on the floor. So in order to correct that problem, I had a piece of mahogany laying around, and I cut it into 1 7/8 inch squares by 3/4 thick, and I'm orienting that grain perpendicular to the axis of the lathe. And it worked real good. Here's another little trick that I learned. It's a really good time saver. Find my little box here. This, you get them at Lowe's for a couple dollars a piece. They're kind of a 16th inch bit with a hex fitting for your cordless drill. But they work real good for this. Drop the hole in there. Run your screw in there and tighten it up. Sand that, put a finish on it, and it's done. Now, one thing that you don't normally do is to get the bottom of this very good as a rule. And I did forget one thing, sorry. Very critical that you shave the outside or the inside edge of that top so that it matches up with your bottom. So that is where the little business with the parting tool comes in. And when I do it, I get started like this, take it in so far, and then I lift it very slowly to get it down to the edge. See how that gloss comes out on that? Never would do it until you let it dry before you try to buff it. Lastly, we'll install the screw that goes in the top. That will engage this. And this goes in the base. This one. And this is the perch.
Did you turn the perch?
No. We're trying to make a little bit of money here.
Now Walmart sells a party That is turned on you.
This is a shish kebab skewer. And with a side cutter, I just nip them off about 3/4 of an inch long. And if you need to, you can touch it with a little sandpaper. Works great, real quick. You know, used to, I would glue up the stock to make this, the whole thing, and I'd have big blocks and so forth. And I'd spend a day doing that, and then I'd spend another day turning this out, another day turning it out. Any more? Did anybody time me?
7 days.
7 days, well. Anyway, I thought it goes pretty quick now, but
26 minutes.
that takes an awful lot of effort to get to that point. But, you know, hopefully this presentation showed you a few shortcuts and put them into practice. And the biggest thing I found that you waste your time is fixing your mistakes. So, anyway, thanks a lot for your attention.